The Konishiroku Hexanon 47mm f1.9 is the lens that came with Konica Auto S, a fixed lens rangefinder camera that was made in Japan and manufactured between 1963 and 1965. Back then, this rangefinder sold for $100, and it was the first 35mm camera made by Konica to feature auto exposure. During its advertising campaign, Konica praised the lens that was part of this camera using the slogan, "The lens alone is worth the price." I found a non-working copy of this rangefinder on eBay for $20. The optical design of this lens consists of 5 elements in 5 groups. The aperture is clickless and ranges from f1.9 to f16. The diaphragm is made of 5 straight aperture blades. This lens accepts filters with 49mm diameter. It has a super convenient built-in metal lens hood. Since this is a fixed lens, once I removed it from the Konica Auto S, it had no mount and no focusing helicoid, but adapting it to Sony mirrorless is very easy. I used an M42 to M52 step-up ring and an M42 to NEX 13 to 18mm focusing helicoid. First I had to sand down the step-up ring 1mm so I can reach infinity, and once that was done I attached it to the back of the lens with some super glue. When the glue was dry, all I had to do was simply screw the lens to the helicoid, and I was ready to use it on my Sony camera. This lens weighs 233 grams, and that includes the step-up ring and the focusing helicoid. When this lens was part of the Konica Auto S, it had a minimum focusing distance of 90 centimeters. But when adapted to Sony Digital in the way I just described, the minimum focusing distance becomes only 38 centimeters. The Konishiroku Hexanon 47mm f1.9 is an excellent rangefinder lens that can be found for super cheap but can produce results that are really special. This lens has a lot of positive qualities that make it a great companion for many shooting situations. First of all, this lens is lightweight and compact and is made extremely well. It has a fantastic build quality, made entirely out of metal with super sturdy feel. And on top of that, it comes with a built-in metal lens hood, which is very handy since this lens is single-coated and can definitely flare when pointed towards the sun. Just like other Konica lenses, this one also produces beautiful colors with excellent saturation and contrast. The colors have a natural look to them and tend to be a bit on the warm side of the spectrum. For a lens that is almost 60 years old, this one controls chromatic aberrations very well, even in challenging situations, with only a hint of magenta fringing. Distortion is not much of an issue. I noticed only a tiny bit of barrel distortion, but that is easily corrected in post. When it comes to sharpness, you can expect very good results in the center at f1.9 as seen in this photo. Here is a 100% crop of the same image and the kind of detail you can expect when shooting wide open. Once you stop the lens down, even only one f-stop to f2.8, you get results that are truly excellent. And of course, when this lens is no longer shot wide open, you will see pentagonal shapes in your out-of-focus lights due to the 5-bladed diaphragm. As you can expect, if you stop the lens further down to f8, you will have images with great sharpness across the entire frame. There is visible vignetting at f1.9, but that improves by f4 and is barely visible by f5.6. The one thing that some people might not like about this lens is its out-of-focus blur. Unfortunately, this Konica doesn't have the smoothest out-of-focus blur, so if you want a lens that shines in that department, you might want to look at some other options. But for many other situations, this lens is an absolute bargain. For only $20, you can get a lens that does a lot of things very well. As long as you understand the strengths and weaknesses of this Konica, you can get some great images out of it. And as I mentioned earlier, this lens has many positive qualities. I personally love shooting it between f2.8 and f8 because that's where this Konica really shines. It's a fantastic lens that can be had for only $20, and sometimes you can find it even cheaper. And it's also super easy to adapt to digital. So at the end of the day, the Konishiroku Hexanon 47mm f1.9 is a fantastic little vintage lens that is reliable, solid and well built, has excellent sharpness and beautiful colors, and has no major issues with chromatic aberrations or distortion, and best of all, it is super affordable. I personally love this conical lens and had a great time shooting with it. For those of you who would like to try adapting this lens, I put together a few notes that can help you with this project. First, of course, you need to get yourself a Konica AutoS rangefinder camera. Once you have one of these cameras, you'll need to open up the film door, because that's where you can start removing the lens. Inside the film door, you will see the retaining ring holding the lens in place. Grab a lens spanner wrench and unscrew the retaining ring. Once that's done, the lens simply comes off the camera and is only held by a single wire. Cut the wire with some scissors and the lens is yours. The next step is to open up the lens shutter. First, make sure that the lens is set to bulb mode. Then grab some tweezers and a little piece of crumpled paper. Now when you examine the back of the lens, you will notice two levers. The first one is the shutter cocking spindle, and the second one is the shutter release lever. First, push the spindle with your thumb until you hear a little click. Then push the release lever with one finger and hold it in place. Now the shutter opens, and in order for it to stay open, we need to put something in there to prevent it from closing again. That's when the little piece of paper comes in very handy. Grab it with your tweezers and insert it in the little gap. Now when you let go of the lever, the shutter stays open and you can use the aperture just like any other lens. The next step is to put the step-up ring on the back of the lens so you can check for infinity focus, but there are two protruding rods that prevent you from doing that. So you'll have to remove this rod over here and also this rod over here. Grab some strong pliers and pull the smaller rod just like that. This one comes off pretty easy. Then using the same pliers, simply cut the other rod. This is also pretty easy since the metal is not that thick and the pliers slice through it without a problem. Now the step-up ring sits nice and flush with the back of the lens and you're ready for the next step. And that is sanding the step-up ring a bit so you can reach infinity. I had to sand it down 1mm so I can focus to infinity on my Sony camera. Then all you need to do is super glue the step-up ring to the back of the lens, screw it to the helicoid, and you're ready to use this awesome little lens. And before we go, if you're wondering why some of the clips in the DIY section have these triangles in the right corner, I put them there as an indicator because all the clips that have the triangles were actually filmed with my spare copy of this exact conical lens. I thought that this will be helpful for people who are wondering how this lens performs for video. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Links for all parts and materials are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time here at Vintage Optics.